tried this for the first time while I was doing tutorials for my last piece similar to this, and I was just like, oh, it looks so good. Hi everybody, my name is Llewellyn and I am the owner and artist at Warren to Whimsy, and I am going to be doing another forest scene. So I finished this one behind me and I finished that yesterday, and I want these two to match. So I started this last week and we're gonna go in and we are going to kind of just recreate it because I was talking to Nick about it, and it's for him. So I was talking to my husband about it, and we were talking about how it kind of looks like a Christmas ornament. And yeah, we're gonna continue on this thing because it's kind of a hot mess. Anyways, I started this piece and was not loving the Christmas ornament look, so we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna do more of a cloudy blend, and this poor guy's gonna go away because I want him to be a lot smaller, and I want the scene to kind of match the one that I have behind me going on, since they're both going to be in the same room. So I'm going to kind of go around the bottom, and then we're just going to slowly move up and blend around the sides. So now I'm going to move into just a little bit of Bunker Hill blue. And we're going to blend that in. And for the cloudy-ish look, I'm gonna bring that blue up just a little bit and then kind of keep it on my brush. So I'm gonna grab my second brush and I'm gonna go into the Hurricane Gray. And I thought I was doing the first coat last week, but really I'm doing the first coat this week, and I'll repeat myself. If you're doing the first coat, for me, it's just placing of colors. So I don't worry as much about what goes where. I just want it to look like misty, and the other piece turned out looking a little bit dark and mystical, which I really like, so it worked out pretty well. And now I'm going to even go lighter and go up into my cotton and my blueberry. And start in the center with the lightest and just kind of move it down and out. Cotton and a little bit of blueberry. Okay, so now I'm going into the cotton more. And this kind of creates a backdrop for the scene. So this is what I did on the other one, only I didn't use that blue color, the Bunker Hill blue, but I wanted it to be a little more gray blue. So we added that in there. Okay, so we're getting a good base. I'm gonna mist it a little bit because it's getting a little bit thick and dragging slightly. And this is how I started the last piece, exactly like this, just I didn't use the Bunker Hill blue. I just went straight into Hurricane Gray, which I will add in right now. And then I'll switch over to the lighter brush and do the same thing. I'll grab that Hurricane Gray on it and just blend it down in there while the paint is still a little bit wet. And circle it out maybe a little bit bigger than what where I want the yellow to be. And then I'm just gonna dip into the daisy, just the littlest tiny amount. Yellow goes a long way. Daisy does, especially. It's really bright, beautiful, sunshiny color, but this isn't sunshine. Like, this is going to be more misty and not like direct sunlight. trees in there, it kind of like will start to define the space a little bit more. And I just want it to match my other one, so I figured I'd add a few of those trees in there that I had. Okay, I am slowly but surely, the more stuff that I get on these branches, the better this tree will start to look. They always look like a big trunk in the beginning. It'll look a lot better than it does right now. I do need to lighten. I put some bushes in last night, so I'm gonna go through and lighten those. A good brush to be using for bushes is this Natural Hair Bristle Brush by Dixie Belle. It is the French tip. So these, I really wanted them to just look dim and misty. I got a little carried away and added that tree because I was having fun last night. I should have probably finished up the background, but that's okay. We can fix. So I am going to start with some far off looking trees. I may paint somewhat over this tree. That's okay. I will come back in and darken it up now that we know where it's gonna be. I like it right there. Now I'm gonna do some pine trees right over here, I'm thinking. And oh, I love this. This is perfect color for this. I just barely wanted to be able to see them off in the distance, so you see just the littlest hint of a line. And then you just go back and forth and you make your little pine trees off in the distance. There, you see? Now you can spray them with water to thin them out. It's really light. I didn't want to be able to see it too much. And I'm going to add in a couple more. All right, so here's what that looks like up close. And it's just gonna get darker as it goes down and sort of shadows. So I'm gonna keep my brightest green at the top. Let me add a hint of yellow to my mix. And you guys will see. I'll put that right at the very top. And now you can see how bright that is. Make this longer. Maybe just blend in that a little bit because it's kind of far off, so I'm not going to see it too well. And honestly, most of this is going to be pretty dark down here until I really get my path in there. where the light's gonna come down. I'm going to paint in a little sort of a path. A lot of people work from dark and then add in the lights over the top. It is just like adding in where all the reflections hit. And I'm going to start out with a darker color and work my way towards the lights. So we're going to end up having a little path in here. Okay, so I am really liking my background now. I love all of this and this little background area. It's looking really good. And what I'm trying to do now is just slowly move forwards. So what we have to do now, because we made this so dark, we're coming back in and adding the lights. And that is kind of your process a lot of times, going back and forth. A lot of times I like to keep my scenes, you keep the lightest part towards the center, and kind of do your dark stuff around the outsides. That seems to work really well for me. And I did a similar scene. I'm doing it similar to my other dresser. So I'm going to put this right in over here. So it's at a slightly different angle for you, but it does line up. I like it to line up straight and nice clean lines over these little trim pieces on these drawers here. Okay, so let's make this into a beech tree. So what you're gonna need is a palette knife, or actually you could use like a putty knife. These angled palette knives I find work really well for me. And your paints. We are just gonna take some of this white. I don't wanna tip it for too long. My paint will still slide it. And maybe a hint of the black. So I'm gonna start off with kind of a little bit of a gray color. And just slightly. And then I'm going to scrape straight across it so you have just a little bubble. So for this one, the light is definitely heading from behind it. And I'm just going to kind of like scrape down, almost swooping. So I'm going to do this on both sides. And you can see we've got a little bit of a birch tree. I am going to add in some white in here as well. So I'm going to do this all the way down. If you get a little bit carried away, oops, I just did it there. You can just come back in with a black, and maybe I'll do that on that side. I got a little carried away with my white. And I'm just barely, see, I'm getting carried away everywhere. Just barely touching it to the tree. Just slightly scraping it. Get some paint on the other side. Come back in. So I really like how random this area is. I really like the look of that. And you can even add a little bit to your bigger tree branches. They might be starting to get a little white. I tried this for the first time while I was doing tutorials for my last piece similar to this, and I was just like, oh, that's so good. And honestly, I don't mind it being white in this area too much, because you know they are going to have shadows. There are going to be areas where, and there's going to be those black areas as well. This is a bit much. It's nearly dry now, and I'm just going to take some of that black and go right in over it. So you can come back and undo what you've done. Like say I don't like these. Just a little bit. Just a littlest bit on there. And there we go. We've got our tree. Do not be afraid to change things if it looks wrong. And that's a little too much, so we can always come back in with my dark. And just sort of offset it slightly. See, I like that. Now we can go right over to the black, and you can just paint in wherever you didn't want it. A little bit too much over here. So here is my view right now. We're getting there. Slowly getting there. It's not water, I'm treating it like it is. And just a second here, I'm gonna come in and just blend this out. Hang on, it's pretty watery. But I wanted it to be kind of like fuzzy light. I just really want it to be like cloudy-ish, blendy-ish down here, all the way down. See, now it's coming together. So I'm definitely gonna have some grass coming out of here. Nice up close grass. It's looking a little bit rough right here. I do just want this to sort of look cloudy, so that's why I'm kind of going back and forth, back and forth. So to get the cloudy look, I mostly do like this circular movement with my brush. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Just blend it right in. And I'm like hardly even touching the brush on the surface. Just using the really fine bristles at the end of these brushes. If you're using one of the Dixie Belle ones or a good blending brush, the ends will be super fine, and that makes it easier to blend, just barely touching the brush on there. Okay, so since we're on what we're doing right now, and I've got my brushes, my dark and my light, I'm going to do that corner up there. It's kind of why I didn't really focus on the branches up there either too much. I'm going to blend this blue a little further out over on this side. All right, we are going to go right over some of these tree branches. I do still have to see on the top, so I'm not too worried about painting that. So now we can go in with that really fine tipped brush that I've been using and use the black and make this tree come out in the front. With Midnight Sky, which I have on my palette, water it down and make a watercolor consistency and get your brush nice and covered with that. And then you will know that the tree is in the front. And let's get these in. I want that tree to be in the front, because on the ground it is in the front. I have to wait a little bit and go over some of these for that to dry, but I wanted to get them in and show that this tree is in the front. So it's good I used a slightly lighter color for that tree farther away. Therefore I can go right in over it. All right. Next thing up is going to be that grass in the front and center. And maybe doing a little bit with these bushes down here, and I'm gonna just about call it finished. I am just about done. Okay, so I was gonna deepen some of these bushes, make them maybe a little bit differently shaped, deepen them down underneath with this darker color. And that's our base. And we'll fade them out. So I'll just keep using more and more of my black. Then I'm going to take the same brush, I'll rinse it out a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to get a little bit brighter. Usually you'll want to step back every once in a while because up close it won't look as good. And when you back up, all those brush strokes kind of come together and make sense, you know? So I will use my phone camera for that all the time. Now I'm gonna move on to some grass. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to start with my dark green and black mix with my little brush. I might actually get a smaller brush, but I will start this right now with this. So we're gonna have them coming out of the bushes. And I'm gonna get them in here. And I don't mind starting it with this bigger brush because the background can be a little bit less. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the second lighter color, the green. And I've got my thinner brush, which you really do need to kind of water your paint down a little bit to use it. And we're gonna go in with that green. Pretty much mostly palmetto with like a hint of kudzu to it. And there's some little grasses sticking out. Okay, let's go to the very lightest color. I get a little bit more water on this. And you can just do the tips of your grass, or you can do new pieces of grass kind of sticking up just the littlest bit. Okay, so I'm just coming back into this hill and sort of deepening it up underneath and making it a bit darker. I wanted it to look more like the mist was sort of rolling into this little glen here at the bottom. So I added my mist back in. And for my mist, and I used the same colors as what I used in the sky, the cotton and the blueberry, maybe a little bit of hurricane gray mixed in this one, or maybe it just had, I'm thinking it just had some of the midnight sky in there. Now I'm sort of brightening up that hill with some grass. I didn't want it to be too bright as it was a bit of a misty scene and it was off in the distance, but I did want to get some of it in there. Next, darkening up these bushes. For the bushes, they were closer up, so I wanted to add more detail to them. And you can see I'm just doing a little tapping motion with my brush, and I'm going in with a darker color first, and then adding my lighter colors in over the top. And finally, I add some yellow into that green and went in with the brightest color. You can see I'm doing just little dots, like it's pretty straightforward little leaves. And now for the deer. I did get him in here, as you will see, pretty quickly. I started with his head and moved on down the body, his head and his antlers. I just wanted to, get the size of him in there first, and I actually did end up painting over him completely. Like, I made him way bigger. Once he's done, you can kind of see, compared to the rest of the scene, he's really, really small. But that is one of the best parts about paint. If you do not like it, you can just paint right over it. but I did want to show how I got the deer in there. So I filmed my first deer, and then I didn't film making him larger and painting over him. So, but you will still have a good idea. I did the larger one exactly the same way. He was just a bit larger. So I started with his head and then sort of just quickly shaped in the body. I am just using a small brush to get him in there. He's pretty detailed and has a lot of little small details. So if you see me looking back, I actually had pulled up, I just Googled deer silhouette, and there's just bunches of all different silhouettes for a deer on there. And so I had pulled up a whole bunch of different ones, and I was looking at a few, sort of figuring out the shape that I wanted him to be. So I just went off of a few of them. And now for his legs. I do come in and redo these legs. I made them a little bit longer. I was just slowly getting his proportions in there. And then I believe I repainted him 2 more times. So now I've painted 3 deer since this was my first. I can say I've painted 3. Each time I made him a little bit larger, and finally I got him big enough to where it was more believable compared to the scenery around him. Alright you guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos where I'm painting my art on furniture. And thank you so much for watching today.